We now turn our focus to China. The country is in the midst of a crisis, a population crisis. Last year, China's population declined for the first time in 6 decades. It is no longer the world's most populous country. India has taken that title. And China keeps justifying that decline internationally, saying quality matters more than quantity and so on, talking trash basically. But the truth is, the government of China is worried. For years, they've tried reversing the decline in birth rates. Since 2021, they've been giving incentives to families with 3 children. Last year, they tried to make 20 cities more conducive for marriage and childbirth. Beijing was on that list. And now they've come out with another list of 20 cities, another 20 cities, and new projects to create what they call a childbearing culture. What does that even mean? Here's a report.
China's in a bind. Its population is declining rapidly. Last year, for the first time in 6 decades, China's population decreased. It fell by 850,000. The reason is deaths overtaking births. China's birth rate was just 6.77 per 1,000 people, a record low. Less than 10 million babies were born in China last year. People there can't afford to have children. China is the second most expensive country in the world to raise a child. Reports say the cost of raising a child till the age of 17 is about $70,000 in the US. It's much higher if one considers college education. Many in China see children as a drain on their finances. In 2016, China officially rescinded its notorious one-child policy. Male preference in Chinese society had skewed the gender ratio. China needed a new generation to replace its aging workforce. So Beijing imposed a 2-child policy in 2016 and upgraded it to a 3-child policy in 2021. But the people weren't too keen. So today, China has announced 20 cities where they'll try creating a childbearing culture. What does this mean? Incentivizing marriages and incentivizing having 3 children. We'll start with marriages. Chinese society is patriarchal. Women are expected to do the housework and child rearing. But the modern Chinese woman doesn't have time for that. Now the government is offering a solution, encouraging Chinese men to share the load. Beijing is running educational programs aimed at making men better husbands. It's also tackling the bride price problem, an old Chinese custom where a groom's family pays the bride's family before a marriage. It's called a bride price. Think of it as the opposite of the dowry system prevalent in India and much of the world. Even though the parties exchanging money are reversed, it's still problematic. Beijing is trying to curb it. It's encouraging people to get married without exchanging too much money. It's also putting pressure on families to not have lavish weddings. Instead, the government regularly holds mass wedding ceremonies at nominal costs. Then there's the problem of people not having children. Beijing is rolling out financial incentives to couples. Free education for the 3rd child, cash rewards for 3 kids, and housing subsidies to big families. The government is also thinking about covering fertility treatments under health insurance plans. In a desperate bid, China is thinking about extending these privileges to unmarried women. So far, all the incentives were reserved for married couples. It left out single mothers. But Beijing has decided to scrap its conservative mindset and encourage everyone to have children, married or not. Will these steps actually work? We'll likely see over the coming years.